In less than 2 decades in politics, he has risen steadily and has been given command of the largest and most critical portfolios. Yet, last month, he relinquished those roles in order to mount his campaign to become the 64th mayor in Toronto's history. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome MPP for Toronto Centre and prospective candidate for the Mayor of Toronto, Mr. George Smitherman.
Well, I want to say thank you very much, Carol. I hadn't actually ever processed before this notion of the prospect of being the 64th mayor in the city of Toronto, but as someone born in 1964, a year that the Toronto Maple Leafs won the Stanley Cup, I'm beginning to think this 64 thing might have a good ring to it. I want to say, perhaps for some of those who found daunting the idea that my speech today marks the unofficial beginning of the mayoral race, recognizing that the season already looked to be a very long one to folks, I do apologize if it's extended it even here before the holiday season. But I do want to offer to all of you at this time my very best wishes for good holidays. I want to thank Carol for the warm welcome, for sure. To say the least, it's a pleasure to be here. As a former member of the Toronto Board of Trade and a regular visitor to your events, I understand more than many the critical role this organization plays in shaping policy and opinion on the future of this city, this province, and even this country. For all of those reasons, I'm very grateful for the invitation and particularly appreciative of all of those who have taken the time to be with us here today. I mean, it's particularly gratifying since I find myself somewhat between jobs this holiday season. I'm no longer a cabinet minister, much less deputy premier, but neither am I an official candidate for mayor, yet. That's something I can't correct until the new year. Nevertheless, I am here because I will be a candidate to lead Toronto as mayor, and I will seek that job. Thank you. And I will seek that job because I believe deeply in this city, its people, and in our potential. What's more, I can think of no better venue to declare firmly where I will place my priority as a candidate. My ambition is to deliver to Toronto a stronger economy with more jobs, higher growth, and increased investment. After all, a thriving economy is the foundation upon which both prosperity and progressive action is built. It is the precondition to progress. None of which is to say that it will be easy. It will take hard work, and part of my message today and for the balance of the campaign will be that business must play its full part. We will need courage, conviction, and collective effort from the private sector. We must all pull in the same direction, and we must all work as partners. As was mentioned by Carol, our inspirational Torontonian David Pico, in his recent letter, asked us to imagine a city where civic entrepreneurs are everywhere, and the process of bringing all the parts of civil society together to solve a problem is really how the city defines its uniqueness. I agree, and it seems to me that the job starts at City Hall. That is where we require fresh energy and a new openness, and I have experience watching this model flourish. When Barbara Hall first brought Jane Jacobs together with planners and developers, people who, to say the least, were not perceived as natural allies, there was skepticism. But this unique approach led to the Kings, where clarity about the kind of neighborhoods we want has leveraged hundreds of millions of dollars in investment, and dynamic new neighborhoods at King Parliament and King and Spadina with substantial employment have emerged. Let me guarantee you this much. If I'm elected mayor, the doors of municipal government will open to new ideas, and the can't-do attitude, pervasive at City Hall, will be gone for good. If I could sum up in one word what I believe we need most from the office of the mayor, that word would be leadership. Clear, consistent, and decisive leadership that will move us forward in a way that makes a tangible difference. Leadership that will challenge the premise that Toronto is powerless to steer the course to our destiny. Leadership that does not confuse rhetoric with results. Leadership that does not mistake activity for achievement. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for a clear, bold set of ideas to strengthen our economy. It's time to elect a mayor with a mandate to make things happen. Thank you. In this campaign, that is what I am looking for, and that's what I pledge to deliver. So let's start by discussing the nature of what confronts us. I hope as we talk, some of the themes I raise will seem familiar. They should, because I've been influenced greatly by the analysis of the Board of Trade, as well as other respected groups, including the City Summit Alliance, the Maytree Foundation, and the Greater Toronto Regional Economic Summit, to name but a few. The challenges we must confront include the following. First, we're witnessing a growth gap that must be closed. It's a gap between the growth in our population and the growth in our job creation here in the city itself. In September, our city's unemployment rate had risen to 10.7%. Yet even as we see fewer jobs, our population in the city proper continues to grow, and each year we add newcomers to our ranks. Let me say quickly, the problem isn't the people we add, it's that we don't add jobs at the same rate. This is the principal challenge that we must meet. What's more, this gap comes with a unique, even unprecedented quality. For the first time in our history, Toronto is emerging as the bedroom community to jobs that exist in the outer ring that lies just beyond our city's limits. We can celebrate new condo construction, and we can embrace the sound principle of intensification. But celebration is hollow if our people are commuting clear out of town. Which takes me to my second point. We're failing to leverage the whole of the city's potential by failing to regard ourselves as we are, an economic region that encompasses not just Toronto, but its surrounding cities and municipalities. We need to make the most of all the assets that influence and affect Toronto's economic prospects, including those that fall beyond our immediate borders. As just one very high-profile example of what I mean, I point to our transit system. We simply cannot continue to tolerate such a fragmented approach to the way in which we move throughout this region. I grew up as a child of the city's outskirts, in Etobicoke, in Mississauga, and Brampton. And as a teenager working in Mississauga, and with my father living in Brampton, I regularly experienced a maze to get around. Sadly, it remains much the same today, and congestion and gridlock have only intensified. It is a literal drag on the growth and pace of growth. And recently, of course, the OECD pegged the cost of such gridlock at a whopping $3 billion a year. For the sake of our economic prospects, we must resist the tendency towards parochialism. The City of Toronto is best served by playing a strong role in leading the entire region of which we are the integral element. We can no longer operate as if our interests and our influence end exactly at the place where politicians have drawn lines on maps. Next, we are miles behind where we need to be when it comes to tackling the task of financing and facilitating major infrastructure. We've much more than exhausted the infrastructure that was laid decades ago by civic leaders who are unafraid to look to the future. It's time to follow their example and show a similar forward vision. But we must do it in a way that suits our times. Again, I'm going to draw upon my experience as a provincial minister, where we spearheaded the Alternative Financing and Procurement, or AFP, model. Why is it acceptable that our nation's largest city effectively frustrates the pace of infrastructure renewal because of a hidebound resistance to new models that share risk and increase reward for our citizens?